What's up world, my name is Charlatan and you're watching Valorant 101, the place where I spend hundreds of hours in custom games and practice mode so you don't have to. I'm a former professional CSGO and PUBG player. I've also played Overwatch, Quake and CS 1.6 on the highest possible levels and some other games which I won't even mention right now. I have over 10 years in esports experience and today I'm going to teach you how to move and peek enemies inside of Valorant in order to gain advantage over them. Movement is a very unique thing in this title. It is most similar to CSGO with a few additions and subtractions. Valorant physics are the same as in real life. There is friction, velocity, speed, field of view, and other components that impact vision of your enemies and your movement, like angles and perception. In this guide, I'm going to explain you everything that you need to know about this topic, so let's jump straight into the action. In Valorant, there are three things that impact your aim accuracy when you're shooting with guns. First, there is a natural inaccuracy of the weapon, meaning that even when you are one-tapping with a gun, the bullets will never go in one perfect straight line, especially when you are at the longer distances. So you can tap your gun over 1000 times and you will never get one perfect dot. Second thing, there is a shooting recoil inaccuracy and so-called spray pattern of the guns. In some other shooter games like CSGO, recoil patterns are constant, which means that if you shoot with certain gun 10 times, the spray pattern will remain the same. You will be able to learn how to control your recoil by performing the same exact actions with your mouse over and over again. In Valorant, we don't have constant spray patterns. Automatic weapons have slight deviations in spray patterns after 8, 9 or 10 bullets. Vertical recoil remains almost the same, but the horizontal briefly changes every time. Thus the way in which you need to move your mouse in order to make your aim perfect is differing every single time. I've briefly covered recoil and spray patterns in my previous video, which you can check down below in description, but I'll make Valorant in-depth aiming guide to explain you how to practice your aim to achieve that godlike machine aiming and how to control recoils and spray patterns with an ease. Finally, the third thing that impacts your aim accuracy is movement. When you are moving faster, your accuracy suffers. When you're moving slower, you're more accurate. But if you're standing still, you are 99% accurate, and at the same time, you're the easiest target for the enemies, and you, my friend, are going to get killed. So you need to find a good balance between movement and your aim precision. There are 5 types of movement which you can perform in Valorant to gain advantage over your enemy. First type of movement is straight running forward with your W key or going backwards with your S key. This is the most basic level of movement in Valorant. When you're moving like this, your aim is a potato. You will be unable to hit enemies because run and gun in this game is almost impossible with any weapon that you play. This is something that you never want to do inside of Valorant world, and you're an extremely easy target for your enemies. Also, you should never check and peek your corners like this. You're not a taxi driver, you're a competitive FPS gamer. Never run straight into corners and never perform these kind of smooth-like movements. If enemy is at your next turn, you will soon find yourself in a spectating mode.
So what should I do, Charlatan, you ask yourself?
Instead of that, you want to perform second type of movement, which is so-called AD movement or strafing. Strafing is when your character is moving left and right in a quick succession. This movement is performed when you are engaging in a fight with your enemies or when you are peeking certain corners and angles. We perform this kind of movement because of peeker's advantage. Because of server netcode, players ping and other variables that impact the rendering of your character, you have slight advantage over the enemy that is waiting for you behind the next corner when you are strafing. In Valorant, they claim that they fully removed peeker's advantage, but it still exists. It's something that cannot be 100% removed because of different variables like players ping, for an example. So how to pick corners and enemies with this type of movement and how to perform strafing. When you engage in a fight or you notice your enemy, you want to start moving left by pressing your A key or moving right with your D key. Then you want to counter that movement with opposite key. If you started moving left with A key, then press D key to trick your enemy and start moving right, and keep repeating this process in an unpredictable manner. Never perform it the same way as you've did it before. Change the amount of times and duration of left and right movement. This technique performed with W and S movement will make you an extremely hard opponent for your enemies, but your aim will still suffer because you're simply running left and right instead of back and forward. That's when we introduce a new sub-technique of strafing, so-called counter-strafing. When you're just simply moving left or right, your aim still suffers a lot. That is because your character starts accelerating left or right. Friction is slowly stopping your movement over time, and then you start accelerating again in an opposite direction. The main problem here is that friction is not instantly performed. Your character is in a stationary position only for a millisecond, where your accuracy is 100%. So what do we do then? We artificially speed up the friction with counter-strafing technique. Instead of pressing A key to go left, releasing it and then pressing D key to go right, what you want to do is while you are still going left with A key, you want to instantly press your D key, just tap it to stop your character in place. This will stop your character without any unnecessary acceleration and give you an extreme accuracy with your gun, and then you can start playing mind games with your opponent. You can start going right with D key after a short period of time, press A key while you're still holding your D key. At that moment your shot will become extremely accurate and you will be able to give an instant headshot to the enemy. Then release the D key and you will start moving left again. This is how your movement should look like. In this guide I'm using crosshair that is showing firing error. The more that crosshair is open, the bigger is the error, and the more inaccurate you become. When crosshair shrinks back to center, that means that my shots are 100% accurate. And you can see how quickly you are able to reset your aim accuracy with this technique. Peeking corners with a strafing and counter-strafing technique can be performed in different variations. First type of peeking is so-called wide peek, where you want to surprise your opponent with a more open or so-called wide peek. You expose yourself much more to the enemy, but in order to trick him. Second peeking technique is so-called slow peek, where you want to use your walking ability and vision advantage in order to see if the enemy is holding the next corner. Remember, the angles and vision in this game works the same way as in real life. The closer you are to some object, the less you see, which means player that is keeping bigger distance from the wall will be able to notice his opponent faster. Player that is closer to the wall will have more vision obstruction and less time to react. Third technique of peeking is so-called shoulder peek. It is the technique which you can use with pre-aiming and pre-shooting technique to check the corners and see if the enemies are waiting for you. You position your crosshair at a place where you think that enemy might be standing. You peek that corner with counter-strafing technique, you shoot and you go back around the corner. This is commonly used to enter bomb sites and check every single angle of the map. And the fourth type of peeking technique is called jiggle peeking. Jiggle peeking is when you are pre-shooting a certain position with 1 or 2 bullets, using a counter-strafing technique. Basically, you shoot 1 or 2 bullets at the location where you think that enemy might be, and you quickly come back around the corner. Unpredictable like the wind, fluid like a water, and you, my friend, are on the way to become professional Valorant player. Always use these types of movement when you are engaging in a fight with opponents. You never want to be at one place. You want to keep shaking that bum and giving your enemies hard time to hit you while your shots are being accurate. Practice makes it perfect. It will take you some time to learn all of this, but once you master it, oh boy, you're going to destroy in this game. Okay, so far we've covered that you should never peek corners and enemies in a smooth type of movement. It should always be rough, but with precision and accuracy, while you're keeping your crosshair straight at the place where you think your enemy might or should be. That is how you should clear corners, enter the bomb sites, and engage your enemies. All of these types of movement are very useful on both attacking and defending side. Pre-aiming and pre-shooting techniques I will cover in depth in my Valorant aiming tutorial. Third type of movement in Valorant is crouching. Never, but never put your crouch on toggle. Always leave it on hold. You're not playing PUBG, Modern Warfare, or whatever other game you play. You will only slow down your movement and you will be unable to perform certain actions. Crouching greatly increases your accuracy with weapons, but it also extremely reduces your movement speed. So crouching should not be used for movement, but rather for tricking your opponents to create that unpredictable type of movement. Good players will always go for headshots, and if you crouch you will make them miss your head and they will have to reposition their crosshair, which gives you an opportunity to kill them. Crouching should be used to hold certain angles and position where only your head is visible. It can also be used to perform certain jumps, because when you crouch while you are jumping in the air, your in-game model shrinks. Well, not literally. What really happens is that your character pulls his legs up to his abdominal part of the body while you are in the air, and you are able to reach certain parts of the map that you would be unable with a regular jump. Crouch peeking corners is also a really popular technique which you can use to trick your opponents. For an example, you are playing operator and you shoulder peek the corner and miss. You can re-peek that same position but with crouch this time, and surprise your enemy, plus your shot will be more accurate. Enemy will probably place his crosshair at the position of your head, and once you crouch peek him, he will have to reposition his crosshair again, which gives you an opportunity to easily take him down. When you are shift crouch jumping at certain locations, enemies will be unable to hear your footsteps. Which leads us to the fourth type of movement in Valorant, which is walking or shifting. This technique allows you to move silently. Your movement speed is slightly reduced, but your aim becomes more accurate. Kinda same as if you were crouching. Both crouching and walking are making enemies unable to hear your footsteps. So what is the difference, you ask yourself now? Walking makes you move a bit faster, and of course your character is in a standing position. You should never walk peek an angle. Use this movement only to reach certain locations of the map silently with your team, which is faster than crouching. But there is one exception which I've covered at the beginning. You can abuse the player's perspective and angles in this game. If an enemy is holding an angle that is close to a wall, you can walk peek far away from that angle, which will allow you to see your opponent before they see you. Lastly, we have fifth type of movement in Valorant, which is jumping. Jumping makes you extremely inaccurate, immobile, and you never want to jump while you're in a fight with enemies. Performing jump shots in Valorant is almost impossible. Your aim suffers a lot while you are in the air. You're also inaccurate when you hit the ground after jumping, and your movement speed is greatly reduced. But jumping allows you to reach certain positions of the map which you would be unable otherwise. It can also be used in a combination with other movement types to bait out the enemies or perform a certain movement technique. These jumping tricks are called air strafing, duck jumping, and bunny hopping. When you press jump, and while you are in the air, you're able to control your flight path using your mouse pointing in a direction that you want to go and using A or D key in that direction. So you are able to strafe in mid-air and go into a circular motion, which is called air strafing. It can be used to bait out enemy shot around the corners. For an example, if enemy is using an operator and holding a certain angle. Because there is no friction in the air, your movement speed will remain the same until you hit the ground again. Duck jumping is a technique combination performed with jumping and crouching to reach certain positions at the map and instantly restarting your aim. For an example, you can elevate yourself with crouch jumping at certain positions while instantly regaining back your aim accuracy and surprising your enemies with unpredictable movement. And lastly, we have the most anticipated topic, which is bunny hopping. This is the most complicated jumping technique which is really hard to perform in CSGO, but in Valorant it is actually really easy and it doesn't give you much benefits in terms of speed and distance that you travel. Yes, you can gain speed, but you'll get slowed down very quickly. Perhaps it's more like a slightly further jump with a bit of speed boost. If you ever played Quake, it's kind of like a circular jump in Quake. Bunny hopping is when you perform multiple jumps in a row, just before you are going to hit the ground. This means that friction from the ground won't slow you down. Bunny hopping allows you to move slightly faster in Valorant, but the main benefit of bee hopping in this game is that it allows you to go fast through some terrains and abilities. For an example, if Phoenix drops his Molotov on the ground, you can bunny hop over it and take significantly less damage compared to when you just walk straight through it. But I also discovered while doing this video that when you bunny hop through the Phoenix Hot Hands ability, you actually take no damage. Maybe it's some kind of bug because there is still an indicator which shows that you're burning in fire, but you are taking like 0 damage. I don't know, like you take no damage at the moment if you bunny hop through Phoenix Hot Hands ability. If Sage drops her slow orb on the ground, if you walk over it, it takes ages. While bunny hopping, you can pass through her orb in just 2 to 3 consecutive jumps. This technique is really simple in Valorant. You need to have your jump button binded to scroll wheel up or scroll wheel down. Just before you think you're going to hit the ground, jump again. You're also able to perform circular and strafe bunny hopping jumps. If you want to strafe left and right while bunny hopping, simply point your crosshair left and press W plus A key while jumping to the left. And if you want to strafe right, simply point your crosshair right and press W plus D key while jumping. Combining those two jumps will give you that strafing motion or so-called bunny hopping. And lastly, we have flying movement. If you press left alt plus F4, you're able to fly.
And then press an F to pay respect for this joke.
I hope you found this guide helpful and informative. I think I've covered all the movement techniques that you can use in this game to gain an advantage over your opponents or just simply become better at the game. In my aiming guide video, I will cover pre-aiming and pre-shooting techniques, where should you place your crosshair, and how to gain that godlike machine aim. But until then, subscribe, turn on notifications, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any new content from me, myself, Charlatan. I'm your Valorant coach, and this is the best way you can pay me, even though I'm working for free. Leave a like on this video, leave a comment down below. Did any of these things help you better understand the game? If your answer is yes, you can also share this video and spread the word about this channel with your friends. In the description you have other social media where you can follow me for some future live streams or announcements. And you can also join my official Discord server. I want to keep in touch with all of you, my dear friends. I'm yours, one and only, Warden of the Valorant community. Thank you for watching, and cut!